I love old photos. It's like they tell a story of a moment in time that just keeps on going. Like you've captured that moment forever. It's like a portal into the past when you see these people and you look in the background and you wonder to yourself, what happened at that moment in time? What were they talking about? What were they saying? What did it feel like? And going through all of these old photo albums of my grandmother and grandfather, there's this one photo that always stands out to me. It's this vehicle with spike-like wheels, and it's not a vintage vehicle for them. It is their mode of transportation. Today I've got a great opportunity to go riding with these vintage vehicles through the 7 passes between George and Knysna. Now I've never done this route before, so this is going to be interesting, and driving with these guys, this is going to get interesting. But I think for today what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my hats, because if you're going to go on a vintage trip you need to look vintage. So what are we waiting for? Let's go. Driving in these beautiful vehicles, the first thing that I noticed was people staring at us and waving and smiling. There is just a fascination with these beautiful vehicles. The 7 passes crosses 10 rivers and 7 gorges as you travel the 75 kilometers between George and Knysna. This was the main route for more than 70 years until 1952, when the N2 National Road was opened. Now what each of the passes are called, I'm not totally sure, because some people say there might even be 8 of them. So why don't you join this backseat driver as we drive through all of them? Driving into the forest, you can see that this trip is going to be different. With no roof and open on all sides, you can experience the forest like you've never experienced it before. The bridges crossing these rivers were mostly made of wood and steel frames, but they were all replaced with concrete in the beginning of the 1900s. With these Model T Fords, you really have to build up speed before you go up a mountain pass, with them only having 2 gears. But nowhere along the way we felt that these cars won't be able to make it. The 7 passes are one of the oldest passes in the country, and it was built by Thomas Bain and finished in 1883. Now you might have realized that it's a pretty bumpy ride, and this was normal. I mean, everybody used this road, and it was something that they did the whole time. It is said that Thomas Bain not only had to battle through the dense bushes, but he also had trouble with his brother-in-law, Adam de Schmidt, who shared the contract. Their differences of opinion concerning the 7 passes near George was so severe that after the job was done, they were no longer on speaking terms. Now, we weren't always driving on tarred roads. A lot of times, most of these passes are dirt roads. And you would think to yourself, why would you drive with such an amazing vehicle on a dirt road? just to realize that when these vehicles were built, there were no tar roads. They were built for off-road. The route winds through farmlands, dairy farms. The mountains are on our left-hand side, and it is just amazingly beautiful. The Model T cars have a cruising speed of about 55 kilometers an hour, although there are some rumors that they could reach a top speed of about 80 kilometers per hour. Philip mentioned that people in those days believed that the gear that you go up a hill is the same gear that you need to go down a hill. Now, I guess if it worked for them, why not? As I mentioned, the Model T Ford only has 2 gears and a reverse. And the pedals are very interesting. If you want to use the first gear, you have to keep it in the whole time. And if you want to go into second gear, you need to release it. And in the middle between these two, it is neutral. When you pull up the handbrake, neutral activates immediately. Now, how do you go in reverse? You have to keep the pedal in neutral and then step on the reverse pedal. Yeah, this sounds a little bit like rocket science and might even be. The Model T Ford never came out with a water pump, causing us to make regular pit stops along the way. We had to check the water levels because driving up and down the passes can overheat the engines. Taking a breather along the way is really good. Spending time with all these club members, I could see the passion that they have for their vehicles and just how much enjoyment they have driving these Model T Fords. After we went through the Hobtini Pass, or as it's known, the Gokama River Pass, we reached our lunch destination. Located in Reenendaal, you will find the welcoming Totti's Farm Kitchen. A perfect place to have a lunch on a trip like this.
We are celebrating our automobile heritage, and we were fortunate enough to have 4 vehicles here today. The oldest one is a 1910 Model T Ford, which is the oldest Model T Ford in the country, the red one. Then the newest one is a 1926 Model T Ford, which was one of the last Model T Fords. And then we've got a 1923 Tourer, which was the year that Henry Ford produced the most Model T Fords ever. He produced more than 2 million Model T Fords during 1923. And then we've got a 1949 Jeep, a CJ3A, which is also a military vehicle originally from America. A brilliant motor car to have as well.
The charming old farmhouse and the beautiful gardens is a great setting for just wining and dining and switching off. You can get lost in the history through all the old antiques and the photos against the wall. And as you know, I love photos. But what they are also famous for is their absolutely delicious food.
This is humongous and delicious. How do you eat this? It's literally impossible, but so good.
And now it is time for us to continue on our way, finishing our trip for the day, with only one little complication: the weather. Just before reaching Neisner, the last pass would be the Phantom Pass. And this is not because of some ghost story or a spooky encounter. This is because of the phantom moth that this pass was named after.
And after lunch, as we're driving back, it started raining. And I can promise you one thing, it is cold. So I am so sorry for the guys that used to use these buggies as their normal transport, because this is cold.
To my disappointment, we couldn't do the Phantom Pass as it started raining and the wind was blowing like crazy. We traveled along the N2 National Road to get back home, passing through the beautiful town of Sagefield as the rain came pouring down. The ocean was a welcome sight as we approached Wilderness. And going up towards Dolphin Point, I could see again why driving in these open vehicles is such a pleasure. The view was spectacular.
I just want to say, if you haven't experienced a vintage vehicle like this and going on a sightseeing tour, you haven't lived yet. This was absolutely awesome, guys. Thank you so much for a great day. Please, let's do it again. Here, I'm going to say bye.
Sure.
See you guys later.